Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jackie and this is Jackie is Making, a place where I talk all about the knit garments that I'm creating. And today I have for you a new podcast episode where I'm going to walk you through my latest finished object. Then I'm going to show you two of my current whips or my works in progress. And then lastly, I have a couple acquisitions to show you. Just a little bit more talk on what we have coming up for the Fall Feels Knit Along, which again starts on September 1st and runs through November 30th. So stay tuned for that. And I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody who watched my video last week or commented and shared about the knit along on Instagram. I am so thankful, along with my collaborator Rebecca of Moving Stitches. It was such just like an amazing moment in the knitting community to feel everybody's just excitement and all of just the good feelings around having the knit along. So thank you guys for all of your encouragement and excitement about it. I've been working with Rebecca and some other brands to bring you guys some really great prizes for that. So as it stands so far, it's looking like we're gonna have two packaged like bundles. So two people are gonna win during the knit along. So if you haven't heard anything about that, feel free to watch my video from last week where I'm just like sharing some different pattern ideas for the Fall Feels Knit Along. And if you want the full details, we have a post on our Instagram, so you can check that out here. And we'll also be posting really close, maybe like the day before September 1st, about what those actual prizes are going to be. So it's going to be a really fun time for us all to just feel some camaraderie around fall. So I hope you guys are excited for that. So to get started, I'm sure some of you noticed today I am wearing my finished object, the Sabai top by Susanne Mueller. And this is a garment that I knit out of Sandnes Garn Line in the colorway Slate. So this is the yarn. You can kind of see what it looks like here. This is a really unique yarn. I've never used anything like this before. This is the second sort of summer yarn that I've ever really used. The first one being what was featured for my Cumulus Tee O-neck version, that sort of silk yarn, that Knitting for Olive 100% silk yarn. But this is my first one that is a 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. And I have some mixed feelings around it. So first, if we're kind of starting to talk about the yarn, then I'm going to talk about the pattern, and then I'll finish off talking about like the overall finished garment. So first of all, with the yarn, I was unsure of what to choose for this pattern, but the Line is one of the three featured yarns that Susanne has for the pattern. And I wanted to pick a neutral, so I ended up with this slate because I felt like it would almost resemble like a black tank top, which for me in my wardrobe is totally a staple. But I also wanted something that would pair well with black pants because I really saw this as a top that could either be dressed down, like casual with jeans, how I'm wearing it right now, or dressed up as well, like for work. So with a pair of like black slacks. So that's why I chose this slate color. And yeah, I knew I had wanted to try this yarn, one because of the weight. I believe this is either a DK or a worsted weight. I'll have to put it up on the screen. So I loved the idea that it would work up a little bit faster than that silk fingering weight yarn I had used. And then it's just a very popular yarn. I mean, if you're looking on Ravelry or you're browsing Instagram and you're looking at summer garments, I honestly feel like you guys, like 50% of the summer garments that I'm looking at either are using Line or tin Line, which is the fingering weight of this yarn. And I think for good reason, honestly. The hand feel feels really nice. To me, I really feel like you feel that viscosy feeling. My friend actually was knitting a top out of this, and when I felt hers, that's what automatically made me say, okay, I'm ready to cast on something in Line, because once I felt hers and how it's like a dense and weighty yarn. It definitely has some weight to it, but it's soft to the touch and it feels almost cool from that viscose. So it was a yarn that I definitely wanted to try, and she had kind of forewarned me like, hey, just so you know, it does really slip on metal needles, and she knows that I knit with metal chiagus. So she was absolutely correct in that. That is one of my biggest takeaways with this yarn is if I am to knit with it next time, I'm definitely going to try it on like a wood or bamboo needle. In the actual garment, like as it's knitting up, there is no way to hide your mistakes. So, you know, one of the beauties of wool is it has that toothiness and grippiness where when you're weaving in your yarns or if you're joining a new ball, it's almost like you can just magically hide it and your garment still looks beautiful on the front. What I'm finding with summer yarns is that is not the case. You can't hide. You cannot hide from anything with these. It's just like all of your mistakes are out there in the open and you have nowhere to run. And yeah, that's just something that I really discovered with this is you can see all of my joins. If there's anywhere where my gauge was a little bit different, like there's one place on this garment where I was like, I saw like a TikTok or a reel about Portuguese purling, which one of my commenters actually commented about the other day. And it's so cool because you wrap the yarn like around your neck and you're able to just almost like flick it while you're purling. Very similar to like a continental style knitting, I would say, but on the purl side. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna try that. And everybody knows you don't try something in the middle of a garment, but I was just so excited. So I tried it and yeah, it's just something that I'm gonna have to practice. It's not something I'm writing off. I think it's such a cool style with tons of history, and I love learning new knitting styles. So yeah, I am not opposed to trying it again, but I will say, automatically you could see that little line of demarcation, like where I started trying that in my garment. So yeah, I need to practice more on like a swatch or something next time, but that's kind of what I mean when I say this yarn hides no imperfections. It kind of like sticks and stays where you put it, which I've heard some people say is kind of the case with linen in general as well, that it will like stay where you put it and it'll wrinkle easily. So even like as we're sitting here, you can probably see it bunching in the middle. So it's like if I'm not sitting perfectly with my shoulders straight back, it does kind of tend to do that a little. So I told you guys I'd talk about yarn, then I would talk about the pattern. So next with the pattern, I thought the pattern was very straightforward. You're essentially knitting first this little neck feature that's ribbed, and then you're increasing on the sides and kind of making a front panel, picking up in the back, knitting a back panel, then you're joining in the round. And the pattern has some really beautiful features that I think the little details of the shoulder seams and the ribbing at the top, and then it has like a ribbed and a slip stitch feature on the sides, and then it ribs all the way down as well. So they're just little features. I guess also at the hem there's like a little bit of ribbing before, and then you end with some stockinette and it kind of rolls up. But those little features I feel like make it look like a very special sort of garment. Yeah, that's kind of like the elements of the pattern. I would say it's very easy to follow. She kind of writes the patterns in a way that is not my preferred style. Almost similar to petite knit as well, where it's just like in big paragraphs. I prefer personally to see things like listed down. If that makes any sense at all. For my eye, it's hard for me to like see things correctly if they aren't spaced out how my brain registers them. So that's probably like a personal learning thing, but absolutely it's an easy pattern to follow, no issues there. and not like a glitzy pattern. I'm learning some designers, you know, they like to put in tons of pictures. They're kind of cutesy and creative with it. And then some are just like straight to the point. I don't think there's an issue either way, but sometimes you might feel like connected to one or another. But yeah, just for purposes of just letting you know, this is just like a simple pattern. And then lastly, like the overall garment, I would say for me, it's okay. I don't know. I'm like not that enthused about it. I've never really been excited to pick it up. Every time I was working on it, it was working on it with the goal of getting to the finish line and kind of like, oh, I'm working on this tonight because I want it done because I'm so ready for fall knits. But yeah, it was just like every time I was working on it, I was like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. Like I'm working on it, but I don't really care to be working on it. And I don't know if I for sure know the reason for that yet. I'm not sure if it's I think it's probably the yarn, and it might be the color. I've never worked in a darker color before. There are things that kept the pattern interesting, like having the ribbing in between rounds and that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know what didn't exactly click for me. I think it's always interesting in life when there's things like that in our creative life or in other aspects where it just, for some reason, didn't click with us and you don't really know why, but it just, for me, it just really didn't. I will say, I'm excited to hear my thoughts. Like at the end of the year, I'm going to do, you know, a video of all of my knits completed. And I'm really anxious to see, you know, did I wear this a lot? What are my comments about it then? Because it does seem like a really easy pattern to fit into my wardrobe. And so, yeah, I think if it ends up being something that I wear a ton and like that I get compliments on and that I feel good about and that I feel like wears well with time, then I think that will drastically like improve my overall rating of the garment. But yeah, as it stands right now, it's just not something I'm super excited about. It kind of is. I don't know a better way to say it. I do think, however, this like neckline is flattering. And I have also seen in so many different stores that a boat neck neckline is trending. So that part of it is cool that I finished a garment that's a boat neck, like as a trend is going on. I love that. But yeah, I think lastly, I do think that this is a garment that you need to be mindful of your undergarments with. I'm wearing something that it's a dark bra that only sticks out just a tiny bit. But I had on a different one that showed more. It kind of went up further on my underarm, and so I had to switch it out. So that's just something to think about, you know, just what kind of undergarments you like to wear and if you think that will look nice or not, because it does go down a fair amount. So you can see this is where it goes down and this is where my undergarment comes up. So depending on the color of your undergarment as well, like I'm wearing a black color and I feel like that looks nice with the slate, and I personally don't super care if a little bit of that is showing, but I know that some people like may get self-conscious about that sort of thing. I do think, however, a good fix to that would be wearing like a cami underneath. That would be the exact same color as your yarn. I think that would be perfect. This yarn isn't super see-through, the gauge, I mean. I think you can slightly see the color of my undergarment through it, but it's definitely not see-through by any means. So, yeah. I will say for blocking, this was the first time that I put this in a spin cycle, because on the Sandnes Garn website, it says to centrifuge well, which I think must be just like a translation thing. I mean, obviously in the washer, it is centrifuging, really. But yeah, I'm guessing that's a translation from Norwegian to a spin cycle. So I did that. And it was almost dry this morning. I took it upstairs and laid it in the sun, and yeah, so it was a very quick dry with the blocking. I will let you guys know as well, I know some creators love to show an object pre-blocked and then after blocked on them. For me personally on this channel, it's probably not something I'm ever going to prioritize because I don't want to tell you guys, even in the smallest regard, that a garment is like finished when it's unblocked. It doesn't make any sense for me to show it to you when it's not blocked because then it's not finished. Also, it's just not gonna look good on a person's body when it's not blocked. So I don't know. I usually will post pictures, like on Instagram even, I posted an unblocked photo of it. But for me, I just don't really see the value in showing it unblocked. You know, there is value, I just thought of in you learning how much it's going to grow, but every single yarn is going to block differently. So that is what your gauge is going to tell you. So even if you're using the exact same yarn as me, you might block something a little differently than I am. You have a different gauge than I do. So I more so want to teach you guys the value of gauge swatching and then blocking your gauge swatch and you measuring the difference in that gauge swatch and how much it's going to grow or change, because the most likely factor in this is that you're gonna have different yarn than I'm gonna have. So sometimes it's fun to see the change like in a video or something, but guys, like I'm a one-woman show, I work a full-time job, gotta feed myself, you know? So it's sometimes I have a smaller office, so it can be hard to like, you know, get the camera all set up, everything, just to show you something unblocked when I personally don't see value in it. So I hope you're okay with that being like an ideal of mine. So that is everything with this top. I'm like already getting annoyed how it's doing this. So if you have bad posture like me, just know it's gonna do that, I guess. Let's move on. First, I'm gonna show you one of my whips that is small and quick, and that's gonna be my Hermione's Everyday Socks. For anybody who has not seen these yet, these are my Hermione's Everyday Socks knit up in Retrosaria's Mondim yarn. So cool. And this is that yarn here as well. It's kind of cool. It has a hand-dyed look to it, even though it's not hand-dyed, which kind of drew me into picking it out. But I got to go to a soccer game with my friends this week, and this was my one singular project I worked on it, that I worked on while we were at it, and yeah, I made the exclamation of like, you can even knit for like, you know, 2 or 3 hours a night, and you're only gonna get a little bit on a sock. So this is as far as I've gotten on my sock here. And yeah, not a ton of updates on this one this week, but I just wanted to let you guys know that we're progressing on this, and I for sure 100% will be casting on a new sock on September 1st. So as I'm talking with you today, keep in mind I am hyper focused on finishing these 2 whips, these socks, and this next sweater I'm gonna show you by September 1st. If I could finish it by next week's podcast, I would be so proud of myself. I don't know if that's feasible for me, but that is my main goal. So that way I really wanna have just a really exciting fresh start for fall. September 1st, I'm turning on Gilmore Girls, I'm posting about Fall Feels Knit Along, and I'm casting on my fall stuff. So excited for that. If you can't tell, can you tell? Okay, next I have for you my California sweater by Knit California, otherwise known as Leslie Forrester Howard. And this is kind of a mess right now because I just had to take it away from my cat. I had it like laying on an ottoman and my cat was laying on top of it, and I usually don't let her just lay on my knits, especially something with mohair in it, because she's a gray cat and she's just an American short hair cat, and her hair loves to come off. She has the softest coat on earth, but yeah, I usually don't let her lay on my stuff because she sheds. And there's probably already Katie hair in this, but yeah, let's show you guys my progress. So here is my California sweater in all her glory. I am calling this my like crushed leaves or my tiger sweater, if you will, like a tiger rolling in crushed leaves because of these gorgeous stripes. And this week I was able to finish my necklines. You can see that there. And then I was also able to finish the body. And then I also did a sewn bind off. So let's see if I can show you guys some close-ups of that. Here we have the nice little sewn bind off. And then I kind of already showed you my little neckline here. And then currently I'm started on my sleeves. So this has been going so well. I've absolutely loved the fabric that this is making. I wish sometimes that you guys could just see me knitting because there's so many times I'll like end a row and I'll quickly just fold it up and go like this. And I'll literally just sit there like this. Like, it's so soft. It's so nice. I love this open gauge. So for anybody that's not familiar, this is a test knit that I'm doing for Leslie. The pattern will probably be available, if I were to assume, sometime in fall. And it was designed with the intention of having a gauge similar to that of the Lento, where you're using a fingering weight plus a lace weight yarn and you're knitting it in an open gauge on a bigger needle. So I am using a US 10 or a 6mm needle for this. And yeah, so this week I just kept working on the body. I did alternate skeins. So I have a little line here actually where you can see I'm alternating skeins. So I might try to cover that up. I'm not really sure. I think I'm just gonna like try it on and see how much it bothers me before I would try to like stitch it together. It doesn't super bother me right now. And let's see. Then we went into the ribbing, and for the collar, I actually ended up kind of messing up the collar at first. You may have seen on my Instagram, I got a little bit frustrated because it was 100% my own fault, not the pattern's fault. I had forgotten my gauge is quite different than Leslie's. So on the ribbing, I actually went down 2 needle sizes, and I didn't really take into consideration how much that was going to change like the tightness and just the overall just like height of the actual collar, because the collar is knit to so many stitches, not to a length. So the first time I did the collar, it was a little bit shorter than I wanted, and it was also just a little bit too like flush to my neck, too tight. So it fit over my head, but it was pulling up the stitches on the body. So I was actually so proud of myself because I feel like normal Jackie would have just been like in the past, as I was creating, this happened to me a lot in creative endeavors. I would just be like, oh, it's fine, and keep going because I wanted the finished object so badly. But what I've noticed with knitting, and I think part of this is just because I enjoy knitting so much, it doesn't bother me to have to rip something out and just do it again. Just literally do it again. So that's been actually a really cool kind of finding in how I'm acting and living creatively as a knitter. It's much different than I've ever behaved before. And so, yeah, I was totally fine with ripping it out, although ripping out mohair is absolutely not for the faint of heart. I totally should have just put it in the freezer. I've heard that from so many of you guys, and that should have been something that I did, but it was like that time period where it was like right before dinner, and I was like, oh, I'll just rip this out, and then maybe I'll be up to it later to cast it back in. So yeah. I ripped it out, took me a little bit of a while, and I kept having to like rip the yarn. So I ended up, I'm probably just gonna have to like toss that yarn because I don't think it's salvageable. It's just like a big heap. So yeah, repicked up my stitches and was just kind of mindful of, okay, what would you do if you went down 2 needle sizes, but you were following the same recipe? So I picked up just a few more stitches, not a lot, but just a few more. And then I did a different method. So what's really nice about Leslie's pattern is she has 3 different methods for the actual like sew down of the collar. So the method that I ended up liking and choosing was I bound off using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, and then I just sewed it down with a needle and thread, and this worked out so well for me. So yeah, that's kind of how this is progressing. And then today I picked up all of my sleeve stitches and I'm back to alternating skeins. So it's not fun to alternate skeins, but I think that it's really important because this is going to pull much differently than it did in the body. So if this makes sense in your mind, I don't know if I would have known this when I first started knitting, but it's never gonna look the same as it does on the body when you're using a variegated yarn, depending on the kind of variegated yarn that you're using. But this one, think about how many stitches it's going across in the body. So just like in simple terms, let's just say a body is 100 stitches and a sleeve is 20 inches. The way that the yarn is going to show up is going to look so different across a body than it is on a sleeve. So you can see my body has like my little tiger stitches, as I've been calling them. And then the sleeve is going to have just more pooling. Like if I were just to not alternate skeins, it would be straight black, like these black stripes on the bottom, and then this only like the main orange color on the top. It would almost look more color blocked as it went down. And then as you decrease, it would kind of shift. So what a lot of people call this is having to do yarn management on a garment. So that's kind of what I did. I have been knitting like 4 rows, and then I pulled out my second yarn to a place where the striping would be on the other side of the arm. So it's kind of gonna be just like on both sides instead of one side or the other. So yeah, starting with that, we're gonna see how it goes. I am completely okay if it's not matchy on both sides, if it looks quite different than the middle. I'm okay with that because really that's the nature of using a variegated yarn. And this is really, this sweater is just like an art piece in how the variegated yarn is looking anyways. So yeah, I'm totally okay with that looking a little bit just different and unique. But I am trying to do yarn management to at least have the colors go back and forth on either side. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on that. But I would say my biggest goal would be to finish this week. And I'm not going to show you my zipper sweater. That's going to be, I really just want to finish these 2 because I'm considering the zipper sweater a part of my fall knitting. So yeah, I guess just really quick, I didn't show you guys the yarns I'm using for this if you haven't seen these yet. This right here is the 4 Crow Fibers yarn in the colorway Earth to Sky. It's a very cool, it has like oranges, browns, tans, and you can see that teal kind of running through the end with that striped element. And then I also have the Knitting for Olive, soft silk mohair, and this is in the colorway Dusty Robin. It's a very unique shade. I've been calling it like a rust kind of color. Like a terracotta rust, I would say. And I love how it so perfectly mutes these kind of more sharper oranges in this colorway. And I think it really makes this sweater more wearable. This feels like a very wearable orange to me and not so much of a like hunter, like bright, super bright orange. So again, that is my California sweater. Look at it. It's already just like draping so beautifully. So yeah, that is that. And I'm just really excited. I'm gonna have this done for fall. I'm so excited that I had this idea to use this yarn towards the end of summer, because I think it's something that I'm just gonna enjoy wearing throughout the entirety of fall. So I'm just really excited about that. And lastly, I have to show you guys a couple of gorgeous gifted acquisitions, and they're both from Evergreen Fiberworks. So during my Fall Feels Knit Along kickoff that I had last week, I showed you guys that I had both of these yarns coming, but I didn't get to show you them like in person. I just showed you a picture. So I just wanted to make sure I showed you them today. So this one in particular, I know this is still available. This is their cedar sock set, and the colorway is an Equinox Bonfire. I love this yarn so much. I am going to be knitting this into a pair of socks during our Fall Feels Knit Along. And what I love about it is it just looks so fall, but also so like Halloween-y, you know, just like a little bit spooky. It has some really gorgeous like berries. You can see this is almost more of a cream. It's darker than I thought it was gonna be. It's a darker cream with these berry flecks throughout. And then it has, yeah, these like gorgeous ribbons of oranges and berries into a purple. And they also paired it with this gorgeous orange color that like so perfectly matches the skein in here. So it's just so festive. I'm so excited to cast these on. If you guys want to match with me, you can. I know this is still available on their site, and they did so kindly offer 10% off to my listeners. So if you are interested, you can use my code Jackie10 to get 10% off. And then they also sent along their 80/20 hemlock sock yarn. This is a 2-ply fingering weight yarn, and this is in the color Brandy Old Fashioned. And if you're familiar with Wisconsin at all, you would know that Brandy Old Fashions are for sure our little state cocktail that everyone is in love with. And yeah, this is what I love about this is Brandy Old Fashions obviously have brandy in them. So I love this like caramely color that makes me think of brandy. But then I also really love the red specks, because in a Brandy Old Fashioned, there's cherries at the bottom, and it's just like the perfect shade of cherry in there. I love it. And I'm gonna be making this into a Musselburgh hat. So what's really fun about this is literally I already know of like 3 of my friends that bought this because they want to make Musselburgh hats in this as well. So stay tuned on social media. You'll probably see us all matching in these Musselburgh Brandy Old Fashioned hats. Hopefully we'll have a Brandy Old Fashioned in our hand drinking with one of these. So I do think maybe this colorway in the ready to ship order is sold out, but I know that they have like skeins that you can buy that they'll dye for you. It just takes a couple weeks for them to dye it and then send it. So I'll check on that. But yeah, I'm really excited. And I'm just so impressed with their colorways. And also their prices. I feel like they have a more discounted price for hand dyed. Plus, like with my 10% off, it really gives you a good price. I'll put it up here because I can't exactly remember, but it's definitely worth at least clicking into and seeing if you're interested in anything, because it seems like a really great price for hand dyed. All right, well, that's everything that I have for you guys today. Kind of a short and sweet episode, but as you can see, I'm really trying to just get through these next couple of whips, and then what I'm thinking for the Fall Feels Knit Along is I'm just going to be so inspired to cast on a bunch of things because everything else is going to be off the needles. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing everything that you guys share and post as we work along together. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week. If you are not subscribed already, please do so. I like to post videos here once a week where I'm just sharing videos just like this, sharing all the things that I'm making, the ups and downs, the highs and lows, everything like that. I'd absolutely love to have you. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.